Hello and welcome back, this is ProTaleDev, back with another winter break jam, and this time we're going to be talking about the third day, and we're also going to look at the fourth day. I'll explain that in a little bit. But basically on the third day I kind of wanted to get the gameplay more solidified, I wanted to make it complete, and so what I did was I needed to get all of the weapons in. So I wanted to get all the weapons in, I wanted to specifically get some effects in as well, and just make sure that all of the gameplay was more or less finished to a degree. I also worked on the enemies as well. Well, more specifically, I just added the prefabs in. They didn't actually have any attacks yet, they would just chase the enemy and such. But I'll show that in a second. So to start off with, right here we got our weapons, and you can see all of our different ones. We have our traditional snowball, which was already done beforehand. It's just a sphere, with a couple of scripts on it, projectile movement, and our weapon collision. That's all the same. And then we actually have a turkey charge. This is the second weapon that you can unlock. Using our switch script that we already set up, that I already talked about in the first day. Essentially I just added on to those weapons that you could switch between, and it's the same thing. We have like our projectile move. We actually do have gravity on this one, so it's going to run on the ground, and then we have all our collision and how much damage it does. We have our pudding bomb, which is literally just an explosive that you can throw. Essentially again we have gravity air. We actually have the weapon collision, and what we can do is you can actually just throw this when it spawns. Then we actually have our turret right here. It doesn't actually rotate correctly on this day, and it doesn't work as intended, but it does shoot out our shards ammo, which does do damage. So I'll show that in a minute as well. As you can see, we got our turret script right here, very similar to the script that I did for the turrets in the Dungeon Architect game. And as you can see, it's just very basic. It has a basic range, a fire rate. It actually has the prefabs, a tag that's specifically what enemies it needs to go after. And then we have a fire point and the rotation, which the rotation is more so for cosmetic, just to make it so that the turret is actually turning. Then we have the very last item, which is a campfire, and that's going to tie into our the main theme of the game, which is we need that campfire to be able to warm up and stay warm. And with this ability you'll be able to basically put a campfire down wherever you want, and that will really help you defend certain locations later on in the game. Next, what we have right here is our enemies. So as I mentioned just a minute ago, we have these new enemies. They are, again, have no attacks or anything. They're just really just models that have been programmed in to chase the player with our nav mesh agent. And of course they'll follow on the same nav mesh that the penguins did on the first day. Pretty much the same things as the penguins at the moment. Obviously they have the health bar above them, but as you can see, we got our snowman right here, which is going to shoot snowballs. We have our seal, which is going to create like an ice shockwave. We have our Santa Claus, which is going to rain down presents. We have our reindeer, which has a charge effect, so they're going to charge at you, so increase speed if there's nothing in the way. Then we have penguins, which are basically just going to try and block your path. Then we have our gingerbread, which is sort of like the next step up from the penguin. They sort of are close range enemies specifically. They'll try and hit you with their with a candy cane. And then we have a elf right here, which is going to put down like a present star trap. Obviously these attacks are not implemented yet, but these were the ideas that I had for these enemies. So if I just quickly go on to the game right here, if I don't play it, you'll be able to see what we've got here on the right is the ice bar. So right here, this blue bar is specifically for freezing. You'll see it active when I press play in a minute. And you can see there's like a tiny little icon which is blue. It's a bit hard to see, but you'll see it in a second. And that's just for ice and for freezing, so keeping warm. We've also got, obviously, some of the UI has changed a little bit right here. We've also got on the left our hotbar for weapons. So this is just all of our different abilities, our weapons that you can be selected. As you can see, they've got no icons yet on the third day. That's something I'll implement in the future. And you see that we've got our snowball, turkey, pudding, a camp, and our tree. Now these items were changed. These were just basic items that I put down at the very beginning of the day because I hadn't decided yet if I was going to have a turret and a campfire or whatever. These were just basic names that I put down, but ultimately there was a turret and a campfire, not a tree and a camp. So moving on. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that I added in effects for those very specific weapons as well. So for the bomb especially, I wanted an effect to add in and get that out the way. That way the weapons were more or less done for this day, if not completely done. And so as you can see, I brought in this effects. Of course, any effects, any kind of prefabs, anything that isn't that I haven't made myself, I do put in the credits. So the pack I used is in the credits of the game. As you can see, it's just a bunch of prefabs for different effects, things like fire, a heart effect, a hit effect, all these different smokes and shockwaves and things were all added in to basically help the game feel a bit more alive. Now before I show off the game and actually play it, the other thing I did was add a border. So you'll see here we got these box colliders on all of these different wall aspects, all these different wall items and assets. This is just to make sure the player doesn't go outside the map. I made sure that you couldn't, I did my best to make sure that the player couldn't go outside and that there was things blocking it. A bit hard to see, but yeah, there's box colliders all across here and all the way around the entire map. Which took a while, but it's just to make sure that the player can't get out. But if you do get out, there's always the border underneath, which isn't being shown at the moment. There is a border underneath, which when you hit it, it'll spawn you back at spawn anyway, so everything's covered all my bases there. So if we just press play right here, I can actually show everything off. So immediately you're going to see at the bottom right, we've got our freeze bar. We've also got our health, and of course we've got the UI on the far left, which is our hotbar of weapons that we can switch to. So there's no tree. The tree was actually supposed to be the turret, but I just named it turret in the end. And what you can see here is there's very basic icons. We also have not completed testing yet. I do that much later. So these guys have a ton of health right now. And it's very basic, so we can actually switch weapons. So as you can see, we've got an effect right here which it wasn't finished, but we can place down a campfire like right there. You can see the campfire. What we can also do is we can switch between, so this present's going to be the turret, which is a bit broken here, and obviously and the ammo isn't rotating correctly. That's something I'll fix in the future, but it does actually hurt them and do damage. Then we have the bomb, so if I throw that one down, you can see a bit of smoke coming from it, and then it'll explode, and we could just throw another one and watch that explode. And at the moment there's no actual way to stop them, so I can just put down a bunch of them. Next we have the turkey charge as well, so it's just a turkey that runs around, and it actually acts as a physical object, so it can slam into them but it'll keep trying to push against them, which adds a really cool effect, I think. So if we just put one there, it'll actually brush against it and sometimes hold it off. And then we have the standard snowball. And so that's mostly everything that I did on the third day. That was the weapons pretty much finished. Just some minor issues here and there with like the turret and the campfire, but that does get fixed by the end of the game jam. So next what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the fourth day. And the reason for that is because I didn't get very much time to work on the fourth day of the game jam. I was very busy, I had other stuff to do, and so I didn't get very much time to work on it. But there is still things that I did, so I'm going to cover that now. So moving on. So with the fourth day, I basically only covered 2 aspects of the game. I had such limited time, so to immediately cover the first and very basic thing, I have a material right here which is our fire range material, basically a very transparent material that's going to show the range of the campfires, just so the player knows when they're in range. And then if we go into our weapons right here, you'll see 2 different ones. One which is a normal campfire, which is what the player can place, and then we have these ones which are inside the map. And this one's just for the very start of the map, which will indicate to the player what they need to do. It's like a little bit of almost like a tutorial or a tip that'll help the player understand what this actually is. But yep, campfire will keep you warm in this freezing environment. If we press play, you'll see that immediately, what it actually is. It's just a very basic thing, but it's just something to help when the player first starts. So if you come over here, you'll see that we can actually see the range of the campfire now. At the bottom right, you can see that our freezing isn't occurring as well, so that was fixed. And then the final thing is at the very left of the screen, right here on the canvas, you can actually see a yellow background. Now if I quickly press left on the mouse to fire, you'll see that the yellow is actually a charge bar. So essentially when I switch to different things right here, so like the campfire, they'll have their own charge in here. Let's just place all of these just to show that. The different speeds of them, so they've been changed to make sure that they match the speed of how their difficulty is to unlock as well. So the campfire being the very longest one to recharge makes sense because it's also the very last thing you unlock as well. And this just stops the player from being able to spam them. So now I'm clicking my mouse, and I can only actually shoot when the bar is finished. And it's the same thing with the other ones as well. I can only do it when the bar is finished. So this just stops the player from being able to spam those abilities. So that's what I did on the 4th day. Again, didn't have a whole lot of time, so just made sure that that counted, and I got the weapons finished completely on the 4th day. So that is all I wanted to cover today for the Winter Game Jam. So that was the 3rd and the 4th day of the Game Jam, and things were going pretty good so far. So this has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you next time.